collection of people here in the room. It's so brilliant to see you. I feel very honoured that you've given up your time this evening to engage in this conversation. So I'm Chris Draper. I run Urban Bonus, and we're a networking organisation that brings people together and joins the dots between people that want to do things, people that are doing things, and filling in, hopefully, some of the gaps. As Sandra mentioned, we had the pleasure of running an amazing food event called Feeding Dorset earlier in October this autumn, and being part and hosting one in the early past year as well. As part of that, it became increasingly apparent that there are so many things going on across Dorset in the food web and what we're beginning to call this. And I don't take any ownership of that, other people's words. But the food web of all the things that are going on, there are layers and layers and layers of activity, all working together to build more food resilience in Dorset, self-sufficiency, better food networks, reducing waste, helping people eat more nutritious diets, looking at our footprint in terms of production and carbon and net zero, looking at sustainability in terms of our own personal sustainability, our ability to thrive and survive when we're involved in projects, and how we can do things better together. And it became really apparent that these webs are happening all over the place, and sometimes it's really useful to kind of bring them together and to raise the profile of these food webs that exist. I'm very much indebted to colleagues who have been working on these things for many years and have pulled these things together. And tonight, really wanted to build on their fantastic work and think about how we can increase the richness of this connectivity that we have among the food projects. We're all interrelated, whether we're growers, whether we are providing food banks, whether we're doing education and cookery skills, whether we're trying to reduce food waste, whether we're trying to introduce projects into schools or into our communities, whether we're trying to run businesses that use food differently, that source food locally, that are having challenges about wanting to change the way that we secure food and supply food around our economy. And there are some big questions that we can tackle together, I think, if we build these networks and keep in sight and keep listening and keep in contact with each other. I'm just looking around this room, and there you too much wisdom in the room. I feel quite inadequate in terms of facilitating this, but I'll do my best. So the first
John,
challenge that we have,
sorry,
yes,
could you just bring your mic a little bit closer?
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that any good? Better? Okay. So it's a really short micro. So the opportunities that we have that we'd like to explore tonight is two things. One is we'd like to have a look at who we think is part of our food network. What do these food webs look like? Who should be in them? Who knows about whom? We have loads of connections, we have loads of ideas and loads of people that we're in touch with. Um, how can we bring them together? How do we connect with them? And then the second thing that we want to look at tonight, and it's very much a workshop, so you won't hear much from me. This is very much about us sharing our experiences together, is to look at where are the hot topics, where's the energy. Some of you might know Daisy Carr, who's the amazing community development officer who supports the food projects in Westchurch and Poole area, and she talks about going to where the energy is. What are the opportunities? Where are people looking to do new things and to build things out together? And to spend some of our time this evening looking at identifying those and working out how we can get behind them collectively and support one another to deliver and develop those pieces of work. So I'm just going to bring up a slide and let's see, there we go. So Feeding Dorset was the label that we put to the events that we've been running. Accessible, affordable, and local food as a kind of tagline. This is an example of a food web that Grounded Community presented to us at our recent event. Grounded Community work in the Boscombe area, but increasingly across the whole of the Christchurch and Poole footprint. Some of you might know them, but it just gives you a feel for how food works in our communities and all the points that people are involved in food, whether it's food boxes and feeding the community through affordable emergency food, gathering gluts, helping people to understand what good food could look like, how we can grow things together, how we share knowledge and experience. And how we can work with some of our large organisations. They've got Bournemouth University and schools and so on involved in their network. How we can involve our shops and businesses and the kind of economic value of food, commercial side of things. This is the fantastic network for Bridport Food Matters. Thank you very much, Candida, for sharing this at the event. Again, just pulling out all the people that are connected up. And this is a growing document that has new people added to it all the time, as does the Grounder community one. How do we see all these networks putting together? How can we make these networks work better so that we have better food, we have more sustainable, more resilient food network across Dorset? And so our question for this first breakout room, we're going to have two breakout rooms, about 20, 25 minutes each. The first question that I'd like to have a look at here and to encourage us to talk about is who should be on the food web? Can we look at people, what types of people, what sort of conversations should we be having with different parts of our food network? Who needs to be involved in this? Do we know these people? Do we have contacts with these people, whether it's supermarkets, whether it's delivery companies, whether it's producers, or whether it is people that are helping with communities to run community lunches and things like that? So spend a bit of time in a breakout room, which will be set up shortly, bring together your list of people or organizations or types of organizations that you could see being part of this food web, so that we can extend and expand this to see it as a kind of Dorset-wide web of food organisations and food interested groups and individuals. Don't rule out the individuals. Individuals are really important. That's where it all starts usually. But equally, if you've got some good knowledge about groups and activities that are already running, that are more established, bring them to the picture too. But this is a chance for us to kind of get into a conversation together and share what we know and who we know. And in those breakout rooms, we'd really like one of you to take the role of scribe. And if you can then send that information that you note down of all the lists of things to Sandra, we'll give you the details at the end. She will collate it for circulation around the room, this group afterwards. So if one of you can be a scribe, and then if one of you can also be elected to speak about three highlights. We're only going to have a 10-minute feedback afterwards. We're just like three kind of examples of things that you came across, maybe ones that were left field. You thought, oh, hang on, I hadn't thought about that. Or maybe ones that you think are the most important in this food web. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll put this question into the rooms when you break out into these breakout rooms. So we're going to take about 20 minutes now for this breakout, and then we'll have a 10-minute feedback afterwards. So Sandra's going to send us out into the ether, into little clusters, and you can then tackle these questions. I'll see you on the other side.
Let's everybody come back in. So perhaps, John, if you'd like to just remind us all what to feed back to everybody, and then perhaps someone in your group could go first, and then we'll take the other groups after that.
Thank you. Yeah, doesn't time fly? Amazing conversations. So what we like is just a couple of highlights of things that either just struck you as kind of hadn't thought about that in the context of the food web, perhaps, but also some of the major things that maybe you came out with. Looking for two or three per group as we go round. So Peter has very kindly been volunteered to feedback from the group that I was in. So Peter, if you would just give us a couple of highlights of the people that we felt should be within our concept of a wider food web or a food network.
Thank you.
Hi, yes. Well, we had quite a long list, so it's trying to remember as well as the ones I've written down anyway. But town or parish councils are important to include. And we were very fortunate here in Bridport that we've got a very supportive one, but they can be make or break things that are going on. Sustainable Bridport, people have got Transition Town in Dorset, like they're good because they cover other aspects of different things. church groups, seed swaps and the like, so that and they can happen at a certain time of the year. I mean, that's covered under something here called Bridport Shed, albeit that we did do it in a different way during lockdowns. Food hampers, again here, the Christmas ones are distributed or put together by the round table. So there are other organizations that people could tap into, and that's important. Community fridges, someone wanted to know about waste. I mean, several towns I know, Bridport, Beamister, Dorchester, and I don't know for the rest of the counties, but I've got community fridges, and the whole point of those, they were set up to reduce food waste primarily, but they also, if you pardon the pun, feed a need as well, because of having free food available without any questions asked and not really needing referrals and the like. And someone wanted to know about community kitchens. That's a difficult one because we've thought about that locally, but the thing is we've got so much going on that actually setting something up like that is, I mean, except in one-off. I mean, we've tried something on the side of our glut store, and we're doing that once a month alongside it, where we're providing either soup or bacon rolls or something for people coming to the store for the free food. They get a hot thing during the winter as well. So there are simple ways of doing that, but you know, if people have got premises, and that's the big question, it's going to be, if you're going to have a full-blown kitchen. I mean, the people in Weymouth that were at the last thing in Blandford seemed to have a very good scheme going there. I can't remember what they were called now, but John would probably have a better memory than me. But there are questions around all that, how it can physically happen. But that's probably as much as I can remember from what we discussed.
Thank you, Peter. That's wonderful. I've already written down about 3 things there that I hadn't thought of. So thank you very much. Could we have somebody from what was called Group 1 on my screen, which Candida was in, but whoever was in that group, who was going to speak for that group? Any offers?
I don't mind speaking for it if the others are happy with that. As the person in the room that's not a food person,
Go for it, Julie.
because there was other experience in the room that are food groups.
Great. So just 2 or 3 highlights.
The 2 or 3 highlights were, well, Anne they've had brilliant success with connecting the disconnected by means of a Halloween party that involved pumpkin carving and just getting the children to connect more to food and the source of food from the sounds of it, and taking away recipes and connecting children of all ages as well. And then churches were mentioned as a good route to connecting. Certainly our church has started a cafe twice a week, and that's a tiny community. The importance, if I got it right, Candida, is the connectivity of things like the supermarkets, the NHS. So you've got sort of community level, and then you've got private kind of supermarkets and suppliers and so on, and then you've got government connections. So it's connecting all those groups. And then my personal thing was just wondering how much we're connecting to the much younger play groups. So they're not at school, they're not, but they might be going to play groups and little community events like that. I wondered how you get into that. Has that covered enough, everybody?
Thank you, Julie. It's great. Everybody happy with that in Julie's group? Wonderful. So then the 3rd group, I've written down Luke, just because I know Luke a little bit. Luke, somebody from Luke's group, you'd like to share key points?
I'm going to feed back on that because I took some notes on that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jill.
We talked about quite a lot. Highlights would be food waste and how small growers can feed into that network. And various groups that were already existing in terms of using excess food. The need for good communication as widely as possible between small networks doing things, but also with big food manufacturers and producers. And you know, how do we map what they are, where they are, and increase communication between them, bearing in mind
Yes.
the difficulties of GDPR rules. Acknowledgement that things that happen on the micro level are really important, and when lots of those things join up, that makes a big difference. A little bit about education on food matters, and particularly school food matters.
Sorry, I missed that. Was that school food?
School food
Yeah.
matters.
Wonderful.
We wondered whether that was happening in Weymouth. That there were other things, but that's probably enough now.
That's fantastic, Jill. That sounds like a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much. And the final group, I've written down Josie's name, but I don't know who'd like to feedback from there.
Hi, thanks, Sandra. I ended up taking notes, so I think the others might just interrupt if I miss something. So we answered it quite simply, as in we thought that everybody actually should be on the list. Food is the way of uniting people, and we all have to eat. So but then we did break that down. We had quite a few, we were talking about schools, faith groups, allotments. I had my business hat on, so I wanted businesses involved. So we had some interesting comments from Penny, whose allotment group, correct me if I'm wrong, Penny, is working with the town council and creating a space for people to come together and trying to create connections. And I mean, they're literally just letting the growers speak for themselves, and like trying to work out ways of connecting to like food banks, links with businesses, schools, faith groups. I learned from Penny that allotment growers throw away a lot of food, and I'm desperate, my business is desperate for this produce. So if the comment that was just made in the last group, the need for communication avenues, absolutely. And then I think it was Debbie that made the point, how do we extend out to those that aren't within this conversation, because it's the people who have got sort of need better nutrition, need access to this food, who don't know about it. So that was a big point there. And I think Debbie also suggested creating a bank of advisors in order for getting information out to maybe youth groups, just getting people growing. And I think it was Maya who said, digging for Dorset.
Digging for Dorset, wonderful.
Yeah, so hopefully that's covered most of it.
That's fantastic. Some new ideas there as well. That's really great. If I could encourage each group, I've put the Gmail in the chat, dorsetcan@gmail.com. Please make sure that those notes get to me in some form, because they feel already invaluable. And we've only done the first part, so hang on in there. I'll pass over to John again. Thank you so much.
I mean, wow, that's absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. Yes, mind-blowing. The diversity there, and also the vision. I think this is the bit that we want to get into. Yes, Jill, if you want to, we can copy and paste it out from the chat, the notes as well. So in terms of our next question to consider, I'll just give you a tiny bit of context. And for those that were at the Feeding Dorset event in October, forgive me, you might have heard a bit of this. One of the things that the big tectonic plates of food that is moving at the moment is the fact that we have somebody mentioned them already, the NHS, education, and the local our councils, the Dorset Council, BCP, and also many of our town and parish councils are very interested and are sort of waking up and looking to engage with some of the issues around food and nutrition across Dorset and to have really meaningful conversations around food security and food resilience. Just yesterday, I was at a meeting with Dorset Healthcare and Dorset County Hospital to look at how they use their estate to support food security in Dorset. That means potentially using their land as a grow space, changing the way they procure their food from the community, local community growers, and having conversations about using opportunities for educating people and supporting them to learn about what healthy food looks like and how to cook healthy food, whole foods particularly, and to try and change their potential for people, increase the chances of them eating well in Dorset by using their scale and influence as what they call anchor institutions, so big institutions across Dorset. That's one conversation that's going on at the moment, but I'm very aware it's come out of our conversations already, and it was in our small group too. There are loads of other places across Dorset where there's some fascinating emergent ideas and ways of working together that people are looking for support with. Um, People have mentioned, setting up new projects. People have talked about how we support the existing projects that are going on, whether it's about finding volunteers, advertising, communicating, and so on, so that we know what's going on across Dorset and we can kind of pull together even better at scale. And this conversation is part of that wider network, that wider web building, so that even if we are on our own in our village over here, there's somebody in another part of Dorset who's on the same journey as us, and we can link up together and support one another to do work and to build that web of connection. So the next challenge is, what are our opportunities? What are the things that we know about in Dorset that are our challenges and opportunities that people will either want to be able to get some support and additional help to run the project or to develop the project, or where you can see an opportunity or you've heard about an opportunity where somebody would like to do something new or connect in or learn from or become a mentor. I thought that was a brilliant idea that was suggested there, of having some advisors who could be there as kind of gurus for certain things, for running a community lunch, for setting up a food bank, for offering, to facilitate conversations with allotmenteers and local projects. This next bit of the conversation is all about opportunity. Where is the energy in Dorset around food? Where are things happening? What's going on? What's the new? What's the need for us to get together where we can support one another and we can actually harness this network, this web that we are part of tonight and that we are plugging into in these conversations? Where do we go next? And the questions just in the back of your mind, I'd like to think about, what is the next step for some of these things? We're not going to be able to get the NHS to procure all of its food for all of its hospitals from Dorset. We're not going to change the nature of farming in Dorset just to grow food for the people who live in Dorset. But what are the next steps that we could get to? Is there an opportunity to increase the local procurement of food in the NHS or in the schools, if another 5% being grown locally? Could we get farmers to be considering adding in some community projects to their mix in terms of diversification and land use? How can we talk to the town councils and the parish councils about common land and how we use that? So the planting of fruit trees, not ornamental trees, those sorts of conversations. What would be a reasonable next step? What are the opportunities we could take together where we could go one step further? So that's the questions to go for. I'll put it in the chat. Penny, do you want to jump in?
Sorry, just really quickly. So where's this information going from here?
This is about building a conversation, a place for dialogue. So these questions build into the Feeding Dorset conversation that we've been having over a number of years, but particularly this year. It's going to appear on our website, so we'll be reflecting on some of these things and putting these questions and these ideas on our website and on CAN's website, so on Help and Kindness. And we will be threading those through and trying to bring people together and provide opportunities for people to reach out to one another. One of those things we'll be doing is increasing our list of all the things that you've mentioned tonight and putting them on there. So if there are new growing projects, we've got other things, we can list them in our Feeding Dorset web that we're starting to pull together, and also that we can then engage in smaller conversations with people who are maybe interested in a particular theme. So let's say this might be about kind of procurement, it might be about the commercial economy, or it might be about volunteers and training and things like that. And that will thread through generally, day to day, but also through the next few meetings that we'll be having as part of this sequence building up into the new year, and potentially might end up with something like a sustainable food place mission for Dorset. But equally, it might not. It might just be we all get to know each other better and we start doing some amazing things in our communities that we didn't dream were possible.
Double thumbs up. Thank you very much. That's great. So shall I do the breakout rooms, and then so you should be in different rooms, and hopefully all will be well. And I will call you back again in about 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes, and I'll broadcast the themes. Bye-bye. Almost there. A few more coming in. Good. So I think let's do like we did last time, if we can, John. If you could give us a reminder, we've got about 2 minutes for each group to feedback, and then someone from your group goes first.
Thank you. So yes, I'm going to be mean and always run away. I was going to say, Luke, he's disappeared. He must have thought I'm going to be on the spot. Okay, I won't pick on anybody else. If you forgive me, I would just feedback a couple of points that we shared as a group. I think the question was that there is so much opportunity and there's so much enthusiasm, and I think one of the things that we discover in these conversations is how much support is out there and how many other people are looking at some of these similar things and want to make them work. And if we can't do it directly, the sense of being amongst peers who are driving in the same direction is a palpable support. Conversations about looking at milk vending as a focal point for other things to happen. So not only providing the milk vending, but actually wherever that happens, creating space to run a community fridge, for instance, where surplus food can be put for other people to share, where we could maybe have, if it's a larger thing, pop-up food activities. So, community food together, cooking activities, and so on. The maths, the economics of it is not unachievable. But it does require a kind of community response to kind of build that. Looking at how we integrate farms that are next to our schools, that are within a walk or within maybe even adjacent to some of our schools. How can we build those relationships and that awareness and connection? I'm sure there are lots of those things that are happening already informally. Probably some of them stopped during COVID. I know that the Dorset Agriculture Society that runs the county show every year had a fund at one point which supported farm visits to schools. And I think that's being re-engineered now post-COVID. So that there's things like that which did tie in our food producing economy to our youngest members of our community and give them the vision of what food is about and where it comes from, and the inspiration maybe to join the economy and to become a food producer and a grower in Dorset as well. And tying that in with things like the forest school experience. So lots of our children have been involved in forest schools over recent years. And again, extending that and seeing that as part of the kind of network of information and empowerment that we give to our families and our children to get involved with their own food networks and food producers locally. An amazing conversation. I'll draw breath.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's great. Could we have somebody who was in Penny's group? In Penny's group, who's going to tell us
was that me? I don't, was that our group? Yes, it was. Sorry, I was just like crazy there, gone off.
No problem.
Okay, we had a great conversation. And we kind of we were stemming from the need for a way of communicating avenues, But from that we were talking about the Royal Society of Arts workshop called Food Touristic, which is coming up. One of I can't remember who it was going to be attending that from our group. And then we were talking about the food larder and how successful that idea was, set up by church, and that was by subscription. And then the community fridge, which is free. And the question was, how do we duplicate that in other places? And so we immediately got someone telling us that there's this forum called Hubbub, and Hubbub, it gives you duplicates information, templates, sharing ideas on how to set these things up. So that was a great thing to learn. And then we were concerned about shops and cafes at the end of the day throwing away a huge amount of food waste, and how can we monopolize on this? And within the group then we had the app Olio, which is spelt OLIO, I now know. We've learned that that's a great place to put information out there and say, look, we've got food, who wants it, come and get it now. We were asking the question at the end, how do we set up an Olio app for our area if we don't have one? And there was one other app called Too Good to Go to Waste. So hopefully I've covered everything there for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Josie. That's great. That seems like a sort of micro version of exactly what we're trying to do just by coming together. That exchange of knowledge, information, and ideas. Thank you. So somebody from Sarah Wilberforce's group, who was in that group with Sarah? You got somebody who'd feedback for us?
Was that our group, Sarah? Yeah, I think was
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So we talked about, again, I think quite similar ideas. It's about how do we actually share information, because there are so many good examples of things that have been done. And so if you want to do something yourself, how do you find out the information to go about it? Anne was asking about a food forest. I was saying about the excellent thing that the Bridport's got about how to set up a community orchard. So it's really about how do we actually bring all those things together in a way that we can actually learn from others about what's worked really well, and also most importantly what hasn't worked well, because sometimes it's good to find out where things have failed so that you can avoid making the same mistakes again. And we spoke about things online and having a website, and think Hubbub sounds fantastic, but how, I've never heard of it before. How do you find out about these things? But then we also talked about the importance of face-to-face conversations to really get into that. And the example was used about actual national networking, finding out equivalent people in other parts of the country doing things, and actually having a sort of formalized network to get together. I don't know if there's a food network that is actually national, but there should be, because there's lots of people doing things like, John was saying that we could talk to each other. The other thing is we talked about the farmers as well, because there is a sort of desire from lots of farmers to actually cut out the middleman. There's all sorts of areas where they're wasting time and money by having to go through producers. So is there a way that we can actually, the farmers can get information on how to cut out the middleman? How can they actually get their produce direct to the people in Dorset that really need it? And, what land is available that's not being used? How can we actually utilize all the information that we've got out here, but actually share it so that people can find solutions through talking to other people rather than just plowing on their own? I think that was the main thing.
Great. Thank you so much, Vicky. That's wonderful. Load more ideas to add there. And then finally, from the first group, people who were with Angela, is there anybody who was in Angela's group who can feed back to us? Angela's,
yeah, I can. Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Yes.
Beryl, go for it. Yeah. Oh, you're muted now. You were unmuted. Everybody's muted.
Here we are. I'm unmuted.
Unmute.
Yeah. Is that
Thank you.
okay? Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah. We were talking about actually skills that people don't have these days to actually cook their own food or simple food, and sort of getting them in venues or finding venues to offer this to groups. And even someone was mentioning that Dorset Council had provided people to go into their own homes and actually teach them how to with simple skills and provide the food to do it, but it was a very limited budget, but that did work. And actually it's similar to that, but to offer skill-based things that you could do in local venues, and getting a venue that you could have it in day centres, or you could offer it in youth centres and places like that where we've got kitchens. And also, well, it was important that I know around Wareham, the local butchers have got their own beef stocks, their own farms and things, and to perhaps get the butchers or to come and have a talk to your local groups to actually tell you exactly where all their meat comes from, and that sort of thing. Also to reach out to families about eating nutritious food, and to avoid actually repeating junk food, or avoid being obese and all that sort of thing, because that is something that we need to teach for every generation.
Yes.
I think some of these other apps that Josie was talking about, and I mean I know Josie very well, she that sounds wonderful, these websites and things, but I think it's getting the message across and getting these skills to be passed from one to another in the community. And I don't think we do that. I certainly don't do that enough in Wareham, but certainly about actually doing stuff like growing your own or sharing as well. I think we could do a lot more of that around Wareham. We haven't got such a good networking as like Bridport's got, or some of the other places have got, which I think we're lacking. But it's certainly, I have had my eyes open tonight about quite a lot of the food networking stuff that's going on. So I really thank everybody for that. That's about it, really. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Beryl. That's fantastic to come in with the educational side of things as well. And also we've heard quite a lot about the templates, sort of the idea of templates and how that can help roll out good ideas. I'm going to hand over to John, because we've got maybe we can sneak an extra 3 minutes and have 5 minutes, John.
If everyone will let us, that'd be great. So I just wanted to draw this to not to a full stop, but to a comma, or maybe an exclamation mark. I don't know. I think tonight's been really amazing. I've really enjoyed spending time with you and listening to this really vibrant food community. We're all involved in it. We're all consumers, as well as quite a lot of us producers, and quite a lot of us are people that make things to feed our families and ourselves. So we are invested. This is about us and about us as individuals, as much as it's about the people that we work with and the organisations that we're part of. And it's really exciting, I think, to come together and have this conversation. In terms of next steps, we will circulate the notes from this evening to continue to inspire and to hold some of these thoughts together. But we've also got an opportunity, and it's something that Help and Kindness has been doing for a little while, to leak some of this information in a way that hopefully will meet some of that communication and information sharing goal that's been mentioned, as a kind of platform really for sharing what is going on. We will take some of the information that you've shared, we'll follow it up, and we will put it onto our website so that you can find it in future. And please jump in and talking to us and sharing stuff if you come across things, and we'll add to it. And we're very keen not only to kind of celebrate and increase the connections between the different types of projects that's been mentioned and the opportunities that have been mentioned tonight, but also to look at whether there are other things that we can add into the mix. So you talked about the wraparound, the training, the kind of people that provide the ancillary services, whether it's communication, funding. Dorset Council has invested a lot over the last few years in food security and food projects, particularly around the emergency and affordable food project that's going on. But this just recently, it's also invested in a thing called the Friendly Food Club, which some of you may know about, which is all about teaching families and children and adults together. And they're going to be setting up a train the trainer opportunity. So if you want to get the Friendly Food Club into your village hall, run an event and learn how to do it yourself, or you have other people that you want to involve in that, that's an opportunity. Equally, there's been investment in things like kitchen equipment and refurbishing some of the kitchens in the village halls around Dorset. I think there were a dozen of them done over the last couple of years. There's lots of opportunities there that we can draw on resources and share resources together. So from my point of view, I'm going to put into the chat, and it will get circulated afterwards, a couple of links to our website that you might find useful in terms of carrying on this conversation, and very much want to see this. This is part of our journey together over these number of meetings that Dorset Climate Action Network and Help and Kindness are jointly facilitating. So come back to the next one, and we'll carry on this conversation together. In the meantime, we will circulate this information out to everybody and encourage you to keep in touch. We will see what we can do in terms of the ongoing communications. If you're happy for your email addresses to be shared with one another or shared publicly, we can facilitate that. We'll have a conversation with you around that. So in terms of plugging into the existing networks and of sharing wisdom across the whole of Dorset, we'll see if we can facilitate some of that as well. So lots of great, I wouldn't say starting points because this is already happening. Lots of great enrichment and connections and conversations tonight. And thank you so much for coming along and giving up your evening tonight, sharing this. And I hope you found it useful. And very much look forward to this journey. I think we're on together, continuing over the next few months.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I can just reiterate that and say that the next meeting will be December the 13th. And we'll let you know shortly the kind of general theme of that once we've digested all the wonderful things that you shared this evening. And then in January the 17th, hopefully we will have an introduction to the Bridport Food Security Plan. That's what we're building towards. Thanks to Candida and Ellie and the town council there, with a view to really understanding how they've got that together and then sharing that process with us in some way. So there'll be a lot more on its way. And thank you very much.